Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of The Ball is Round. I'm Hady Raphael, and tonight on the show, more player movement for CF Montreal. We'll take a look at the last stretch of the season for CF Montreal and also the future of the women's national team. And last but not least, the Canadian players are getting trendy in Europe. That and a lot more on episode 191 of the Ball is Round. And it's a full house tonight. I'm joined by all my good friends, all three of them. So first of all, Andy Coronado. Hey, Andy, how are you today?
I'm doing good. I thought I would be having a week off or two due to the CF Montreal being off, but nope, we're
never.
very busy.
EBIR does not rest.
Never.
I don't. I just want to sleep, guys. I just want to sleep. All right, so that's where I'm at now.
Also, we have Elias Gregoriades. Elias, a win for Barcelona and a draw for Real Madrid. So you're on the moon, right?
Winning the treble. I don't know what you're talking about. No, it's. I'm just happy
Relax,
that
relax.
regular season is back in Europe. Now there's soccer on all fronts, and maybe something to distract me from Barcelona, which is just and Montreal. They're each is distracting me from the other at this point.
It's pretty great. And of course, the return of Eve Fowl after her vacation. Hey, Eve, how are you?
Hello. I'm back.
Do I need to talk about Wolves losing in Arsenal, or?
Well, I think that was to be expected, to be fair. At least
exactly.
if your name is Eve, that was to be expected.
Exactly.
And it's so funny. I was speaking to someone yesterday, and he sent me the thing, and I was like, yeah, I know. I expected it. Thank you for reminding me.
Great. And, I'm not going to brag too much, but we won 5-1. So, yeah, it is what it is. Against Brest, who's qualified to Champions League, right?
Fair.
So, yeah. Now, yeah. We have some good players. They qualified in Champions League, so they were third last year. So great. Let's talk about CF Montreal. Let's talk about Canadian soccer, of Canadian women's national team. There's a lot to talk about. There wasn't any games, but as we said earlier, never a dull moment if you're covering CF Montreal and Canadian soccer. You never get a break. And that's why here on The Ball is Round, we never take a break. We're always here to cover Canadian soccer for sure. So let's start first about talking about the player movement, the last movement since last episode. So there was 2 trades made by CF Montreal. First one was Ari Lassiter leaving CF Montreal for Chicago. So leaving for 75,000 GAM in 2024 and conditional GAM for 2025 for 75,000 again. So it's conditional. So we're not really sure what needs to be met in order for CF Montreal to get those 75,000. But we already have 75,000 in hand. And the second trade was Juan. Juan, we talked about it. We knew, we said that usually Nilton and Sofiane, when they say something, it happens. And that's exactly what happened. Juan leaving for Dallas for 150,000 GAM. So 50,000 2024 a GAM, and then 100,000 in conditional GAM for the 2025 season. So we're not really sure. So first of all, I'm going to answer one question because I know it's going to come. The reason why they were so cheap, it's because it was their last year of contract. So it's normal that they're cheaper than any other players. Because how do we calculate the value of a player? First of all, his age, his potential, and of course, the length of his contract, of course, amongst other things for sure. So guys, Were you surprised about any of those trades? I start with you, Eve, because we didn't
Yeah.
hear you much about the trades. Were
They
you
didn't
surprised
hear
of
me
those
at all. I've been gone.
Exactly. Exactly.
You're just on mute.
Obviously, obviously, you know, Rouen just came to Montreal, so it's kind of like a blink and you'll miss it sort of deal. But it's certainly not the first time we've seen a player come and kind of just basically turn around and leave. So, you know, I would argue that probably that might have been a little bit surprising because he arrived during the Olivier Renard era, and you can only imagine that this was not the plan for Rouen. And perhaps, you know, he had some difficulty adapting to Montreal because Quebec is a particular place to live as somebody who also moved here from elsewhere. But that being said, you know, looking at the players that Montreal has brought in to the fold, speaking kind of for Ariel Aster, I could kind of see the writing on the wall for that one just because he was a little bit surplus to requirements after, you know, various players had kind of stood out and kind of made themselves a little bit more necessary than he had after the several positions for which he had kind of auditioned himself. So I would say I was more surprised by Rouen's departure. Obviously, like, I think perhaps it wasn't necessarily an on the field decision that led to Rouen's departure, but for Ariel Aster, given everything kind of that we've seen this season, I'm not shocked.
Okay. Well, I'm surprised. I would have thought that it was
The
the
other
other
way
way around. Yeah, exactly. Because we
Really?
acquired Jaquil Macron-Ready as a
Yeah.
right wing back, but we didn't really acquire any striker. Caden Clark
No.
is more 6'8", so that
I
sorry,
agree.
8'10".
I agree with you overall, but at the same time, like, had Ariel Aster like claimed the position as second striker?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're right. You're right.
Thank
Interesting.
you. I love that.
Interesting. I think it was interesting moves from CF Montreal. I'll ask you just a few questions, of course, Andy, Elias, but they are going to be different from your thoughts regarding the transfers themselves. We have 26 players in a roster right now. Out of we are allowed to have a 30-player roster. We chose a model of 2 DPs for U22 model. Not surprising, of course, because we're never going to choose 3 DPs because we never do have 3 DPs.
We barely
we do-
have two. We barely
Okay.
have one.
We have one right now. So
Ish.
now let's explain a bit of the rule. Yes, the transfer window is closed, so we cannot do any trades in MLS. We cannot pay for a player from Europe to come here, but we are allowed to sign free agents, okay? And the roster freeze, we are allowed to sign the free agents until the roster freeze, which is on the 13th of September. That means that we'll have, as of right now, we have 4 spots that are open. With, of course, we talked about Mathieu Choinière. There's a lot of rumors sending him to Switzerland. So we might have 5 spots in September, the beginning of September or mid-September.
Mhm.
Do you think, Elias, that we will sign any free agents going forward?
Before the roster locks, I don't think so. I mean, you know, you never really do know what they end up finding in Europe and all those things and what little projects they like to take on. But at the end of the day, I unless they can negotiate a really, really good price for a European free agent, I don't really see them rushing to bring anybody in. Patrick said,
Yeah.
you know, take Martial on a free.
Patrick,
There's a,
stop dreaming,
there's-
man. Stop dreaming.
a-
Not gonna
Bold,
happen.
I would say.
Not a-
That's bold.
there's a
Not
lot
gonna
of
happen.
different reasons why, you know, I have my doubts, and you know, fitness is the first one, which is, you know, what Patrick said. Besides that, I think that honestly, there's no one out there that I think that, you know, is on their radar that they absolutely need and that, you know, fits their model right now. There's a lot of people that are out of contract that are maybe in the older stage of their career, and they very clearly said if we're going to be spending money on bringing in Europeans, it's not going to be someone that's in their mid to late 30s. And so, you know, I don't see them making really big splashes on free agents because free agents usually are not. Usually, again, because Tom Pierce was technically a free agent, but usually, at this point of the window, it's not the younger players that are looking.
It's interesting because Andy, we saw what Gabriel Gervais or whoever you think is calling the shots are signing. Some unknown players. We talked about Tom Pierce. We talked about David Bugai. Do you think that we might see one of these players, unknown players, coming from free agency? Because you always have free agents from, let's say, their contract run out in third division in England or third division in Italy and so on. Or do you think that, and that's my other question, or do you think that Montreal will finally free up some salary in order to sign a big signing? Because Gabriel Gervais said at one point, and has been saying for the last 2 years, that if an opportunity is there, they're willing to sign a big DP. So do you think any of those might happen until the 13th of September?
I think it's very hard to say that right now because we said 2 months ago, remember we asked ourselves in the podcast, was it 2 months ago? No, this was a few weeks back, if there were going to be any roster changes being done. And we said, no, there's no way. Like, where are we going to change? Where are we going to sign from where? And what are we going to... We said that, right? This was an agreement that we said in the podcast.
And we were wrong.
And sure enough, two weeks later, we have a completely different team, So it's so hard to say. As long as, it's clear and it's been said over and over again that Gabriel Gervais is the one making the final decisions, but I do believe they are using Corey Ray as a consultant. And as long as that's going on and Laurent Courtois has his say as to what he sees on the field and needs, there could be surprises. And I think they'll use the Bologna scout. It does seem like they're using that Bologna that analysis or scouting to help them. And like you said, Hady, there's the rare situation in England, anywhere in the world, that somebody could be a free agent and that maybe they're undervalued and we can get them at a bargain price because they're free agents, right? There could be. I'm not gonna rule it out. I know the roster looks the way it looks today, with the DP in our bench, enjoying his life, that's all it seems to be. He seems to be doing, and embattled. What's the word to use? Embattled striker right now with his coach.
Good choice of words.
So there's the. Yeah, that's vocabulary. But anyway, so it's definitely something that I think like we have to keep an eye on, because the whole, I don't know, we'll talk about it another time, but yeah, it's definitely, there's situations in the roster right now with CF Montreal that have more question marks than answers, and I'm gonna get too far in my answer, so I'm just gonna stop it there. So it's a hard call, Hady, right now. It's a hard call because
I'm interested.
They're running.
I'm interested, Andy,
in my answer,
hear your thoughts.
To expand on that.
Where do you feel that there are some areas of improvement within the roster as of right now? Of course, we are around the bottom of the Eastern Conference, but most of the positions you have at least 2 or 3 people in the roster. So do you feel that there's somewhere where we need to really strengthen our roster, like specifically?
I feel that the biggest difference maker, because we do have skills in the attacking front, I think we haven't seen enough any of Caden Clark, so we have no idea what he brings to the table besides what we've seen in the past. We don't know who he is today because we only seen him play right back, and the new signings also, we've seen them. We've heard of things that they've done in the past that could also help us out, but at the end of the day, and I don't know that much about David Bugaj or never say his name correctly, but or
Bugai. It's Boo and then Guy, so Bugai.
I'll figure it out. But anyway, so we don't know enough to say like that's a set position. Like that's okay. There's nothing in that position. To me, when I see the games, the way they're being played, I see that midfield is a need, and I think Pietz is an excellent player. And well, I don't know where Chouanière is going to be, but Nathan Saliba, I think he has great potential, but is he the player that we want like say that we trust enough to take the next step in the 9 games or this season. So if we can have a veteran, an older, I don't even want to say an older veteran, an older player that can guide the midfield and teach them properly how to play the position and how to properly play Laurent Courtois style. Like in Columbus Crew, they have a Nagme that seems to understand the Wilfred Nancy system and really seems to guide that team. If we can have that kind of player here, that's a position that I think could change this team in a lot of ways. That's my opinion, but like I said, it could mean nothing,
interesting.
Right?
Interesting to hear your opinion for sure. Nagbe has 3 MLS Cups, so of course he's a great player. He played an instrumental role in so many teams within the MLS. He's been amazing. Elias, I want to hear your thoughts on this. Do you feel that do you agree with Andy about that missing piece in the midfield? And in case you do, what do you do with the other midfielders? Because right now you do have Piet, you do have Saliba, you do have Wanyama, he's still here. So what do you do with those pieces?
Look, like when you say the 25 people in the roster, you also have to take into account the 3 or 4 that are definitely not coming back. People like Victor Wanyama, people like Lassie Lavalainen, people like, we'll get into it later, Joseph Martinez, right? All these people will not be back next year. So if they are going to go out and look for free agents right now, it's with the anticipation that those guys won't be back next year. And it's more of a, they probably look for someone that could give an impact now, but it's definitely someone that they're going to be looking to keep for at least next season. So I think that ultimately, a midfielder would be good, but at the same time, someone who could play in that second striker position, because if you're losing Lassiter, Lassie, and Joseph Martinez from between now and the next few months, then that's 3 significant attacking options. Yes, Lassie hasn't been around enough to be considered, significant on the game sheet for a while, but that's still a roster spot in that depth chart. So if they were to go and pick up somebody, I wouldn't be surprised if it's someone who could play that kind of role, that kind of second striker role, because, you have Sanusi, you have Kokoro as your proper 9s, even, Vilsain, who is still quite versatile, but when you strip away those other 3 that I just mentioned, the only person who could play behind in those half spaces is Mahala. That's it. So
no, you have Caden Clark too.
Yeah, but Clark feels more like a proper midfielder. Again, we'll see how they're used, but at best you have Mahala and Clark, and even Duke if he gets it forward. But like that's what I'm talking about. It's starting to get thin. So if they were to get somebody, I think that's where they'll put their eggs in.
Eve, I want to hear you, and I was leaving that question to you, Joseph Martinez. Honestly, I was shocked. I was there. I had it was my first time in training this year because I've been working so hard this year at the job that pays me because I still need to work. So it was the first time that was available.
Oh, you
for
chose
training.
one.
Honestly, I was there, and then honestly, like the Laurent Courtois jumped on this, and he wasn't even asked about Joseph Martinez. We asked him, "Is the group living well?" And his answer was like, everybody but one. And then he snapped at Joseph Martinez.
Yeah.
Eve, what do you think about that? And do you think there is still a way for Joseph Martinez to come back in the team? Because I feel that Laurent Courtois threw him under the bus and he's completely gone.
Yeah.
I don't know how he can come back from that.
I'm also struggling to imagine that, Hady, because as you said, like the question wasn't even posed directly about Joseph Martinez, but Laurent Courtois managed to squeeze into his answer that Joseph Martinez was essentially kind of the most problematic player in the squad currently. So to me, that says it's kind of like the situation we had with Victor Wanyama and Hernan Lozada last year. It was, one can stay, but not the other. And we saw Hernan Lozada did not stay. Victor Wanyama did stay. So I kind of feel like we're going to find ourselves in a very similar situation come the end of the season. Obviously, I don't necessarily expect Joseph Martinez to go anywhere between now and the roster freeze date, just circumstances, right? But I find it very, very, very unlikely that he is in a CF Montreal kit to kick off the season in 2025. It just feels the vibe is off.
Exactly. So what do you do, Elias, with the superstar that's unhappy, that you threw under the bus, and that's still within your roster, because you cannot get rid of him unless you sell him in Europe, which unfortunately I don't think will happen, because he has a certain age, and I don't think that he already tried the European to go to Europe. It didn't work very well. He can go maybe to South America or Central America, but I doubt that he will go there. So what do you do if you're the coach when you did, when you took, you communicated about him that way, and now you still have 9 games for your season, and this player is still within your roster? How do you, I don't know, how would you deal with that? How do you cope with that?
I think it's kind of one of those situations where, it's like that coworker you really don't get along with. And yeah, in this situation, it's a manager and a subordinate, and it's not 2 coworkers specifically. But in the workplace, I just feel like it's one of those where they're both going to do their job. They're not going to have that much contact outside of what is absolutely necessary. At the end of the day, Joseph Martinez still has a certain quality that I don't think he'll be getting as many minutes if everyone's healthy and stuff like that. But I do think he'll be used even as a sub off the bench. He might get the odd start. But I think contact between them is probably going to be to a minimum. He seemed really excited when he got here. In the interview, Ray Courtois talked about how earlier in the season he viewed him as a leadership figure, and how Martinez was embracing this leadership role that was, entrusted on him, because again, it was a very young attacking core. The second youngest in that core was Mason Toy. Or the second oldest, was Mason Toy. Right? Everyone else was younger than him. So I think everyone appreciated that, but where it started to sour, I don't know. You could just tell
he said
that
in the last few weeks.
Exactly.
So.
But the thing is, what was the élément déclencheur, right? What's what really started setting it off? Because the thing is, it can't be the minutes. Yeah, he's been a little bit mopey on the field, right? Because he was played in a position that wasn't. He was played as like a target man 9, where he was supposed to receive the ball and everything like that. And we all know it's not his preferred position. But you know what? When it was out of necessity, so maybe that was where the initial friction started. But ever since he came back from injury, he just seemed to have mentally not really come back to Montreal. And he spent his time recovering in Miami with his family, then having to leave his family again to go back. I just think that I don't know if it's buyer's remorse or anything like that, but I just feel like both sides of this really are just counting out the clock at this point.
Yeah, that's sad coming into the last stretch of the season. Andy, do you feel that we will see? We talked about player signings until the end of the until the roster freeze, but do you feel that we will see players leaving apart from Choignard? Do you feel another player could leave? Do you feel that Joseph Martinez could leave, or anybody else?
The whole just to kind of because I don't want to say a yes or no answer to that, because it could happen, like it could not happen, as I said earlier about the signings, right? But the Joseph Martinez situation, it just seems to me like when they interviewed him when he first came here, he had a clear vision that he wanted to break a record of goals, right? Because there's a record that he's chasing after. Then he got injured, and then when he came back, it just seemed like he took 3 steps back towards that goal that he had to break that. So is it the fact that maybe Courtois kind of raised, after his injury, Laurent Courtois raised his standards for practice for his players, and when he came back, he just took a lot of stuff for granted, maybe that he was a starter, or that he deserved that 9 spot when there were other players like Sunusi that were just kicking butt and scoring goals. And so it's one of those things where you will he leave? I think what we're about to find out as fans and followers of this team is what kind of coach is Laurent Courtois. Yeah, he calls out his players. He's made that very evident. He's done it several times throughout throughout his time here, while the short time that he's been here. But what we're about to find out is he a coach that gives second chances? Like he said, I give you my hand till you betray me. This really, really strong word of betray me. Is it that bad that he won't give a second chance, or is he willing to go as far as giving a second chance to Joseph Martinez and kind of start with a blank slate, if obviously Joseph Martinez takes it upon himself? But what he said to the media is, he was one person when we signed him, and today he said on a human aspect, he's a different person. So again, is he willing to say that, okay, well, look, coach, I'm sorry I showed you that side, but going forward, I want to be the best professional that you will see outside the field and in the field. So it's Hady, like you said, nobody really asked him, and he took it upon himself to mention it. If he did, it's because it really, really must be carrying carrying on him this impacting maybe practice every day or the locker room every day. I mean, it's we don't know the details, right?
No, for sure. Now, we do have a few comments here. Sam Savvy saying positive point of the week: upgrades at key positions, and we said it already that I think it's good signings that we had. We said it last week. We talked a lot about Jaquila Marshall Ruddy. We talked a lot about Caden Clark. We're very positive about those moves for sure. And Robbie's saying, I think Martinez has always been a lazy player, made up for that with his talent in the past. I don't disagree with that in a way. And honestly, don't forget that the Martinez, since his injury, has maybe argued with 3 or 4 coaches. So I don't know. For me, even if I'm not very happy about Laurent Courtois' management of the roster, but in this regard specifically, I tend to agree with Laurent Courtois. If you're not a player that wants to be part of a team, then you don't deserve to get minutes, and that's what I feel he's saying. I don't know if anybody has a rebound on that.
It's not the first time that this team invests in a player with a red flag, and they have succeeded in it. I mean, Jose Martinez, as talented as he is, he did have a lot of red flags in the past, but this team has invested and has been the team to give second chances to these players after knowing very evidently, and even coaches with Hernan Lozada, that was plenty of red flags, right? And they still gave him a second chance in this team. This team always looks past that to see if they can bring, monetary value or by giving this player a second chance. So those projects, unfortunately, and this happens all over the world, not just in CF Montreal, those kind of projects are not guaranteed to work. They can very much fail and be embarrassing for the team. Like I think Elias said that it can be buyer's remorse, right? And unfortunately it happens, like it did with Hernan Lozada, right? I think that's what happened. That's why they fired him so quickly.
No, I agree. And you know what? We did that with Georgi Mihailovic. We did that with Kai Kamara. We did that with so many players. Completely agree with what you're saying, Andy. So I think very, very interesting movements. I can't wait to see the final roster on the 13th of September. I think that's going to be very interesting. Let's move on with our second segment. And second segment that's going to be very interesting too. I'm pretty sure you guys are going to like it. Let's look at the final stretch of the season. So let's pull up the calendar, the schedule, the fixtures until the end of the season. So we got New England. We're going to Cincinnati. We're going to we're going to play at home against Charlotte. Going to New England. Then 2 home games, Chicago and San Jose. 2 away games in Atlanta and Charlotte. And at the end of the season, on the 19th of October, it's going to be at Stade Saputo. It's going to be pretty cold with Montreal against New York City FC. Eve, I'll start with you this time. Which games are must wins for the club, in your opinion? If you, of course, all 9 for sure, but like if you have to choose 2 or 3 games that are for you, those games that are going to be the foundation of a team that's going to qualify in the playoffs, which ones would you choose?
I think as many home games as humanly possible, as we always say in MLS play, you're only as good as your home record. Next up, Montreal is hosting New England, which is currently last in the Eastern Conference. So you would have to hope they could pull something off against that squad. Looking, at the other opponents that they're going to be facing kind of down that stretch, you also have to feel a little bit like San Jose should be a freebie, even if it is a Western Conference team, and so not necessarily as important, quote unquote, as an Eastern Conference team. Just based on their record this season, Montreal, I think, has always struggled at Atlanta, so I wouldn't hang my hat on that. They have a decent record at Charlotte, but again, how inconsistent they've been this season, I wouldn't hang my hat on that either. Same against New York. They've never done a great job against New York City FC. So I am running out of points for Montreal to collect if I delve too much deeper. I'm going to say most of the home matches is where I'll say Montreal should pick up something.
Interesting. Yeah, I agree with you that usually in MLS you need to win your home matches. Completely agree with that. For me, I look at all the home games. We should be able to win at least the 4, like against New England, Charlotte, Chicago, and San Jose. And I feel we need to win one away game, that's the one in New England. Elias, do you feel the same? Like if we win 5 games, it should be enough to be
15 points, not counting draws, 15 points. You look at the total now, you look what it's taken in the past to get to at least the play in theory, yes. But at this point, it's tough to not, take a page out of Eve's book and be a little cynical, right? What you need, right? At the end of the day, you talk about what are must-win games. Every home game is a must-win game at the end of the day. There's nobody that's, insanely superior to them that, you're playing against 2022 Philadelphia Union or whatever that walked over everybody. These are all very attainable home games. And at the end of the day, this team shows up at home. Whether or not they get the result at home are 2 entirely different things. That's the problem. So, yeah, New England on the road, you could be optimistic, cautiously optimistic, stuff like that. Charlotte on the road, they've had success in the past at Charlotte, at least to get a result. Sure. But at the end of the day, you get your 5 win. Yeah, and some savvy saying, 3 or 4 just supposed to be your 5
wins. Yeah. Taking a page out of my book.
He's right. He's right.
He's not wrong.
And then they dropped arguably the worst half of football I have ever seen them play in that first half before the rain warning. So I get it. But at the end of the day, you have a lot of new players, a lot of people that maybe haven't been affected by the bad juju going around right now. And you have to also rely on those people to kind of maybe remind the team how fun it is to play as a unit and how fun it was to be at the beginning of the season. Because at the beginning of the season, they were world beaters. They were a ragtag group of it's us against the world type mentality. And I think they need to bring that back because that's the only way I see them making the playoffs.
That's very interesting. And Andy, I want to hear you on what Laurent Courtois has said also during the media with the media on Thursday. He said, we talked to him, we asked him about the pressure on his shoulders right now because he's not meeting, the requirements. Not winning the Canadian Championship and also not being in the playoffs right now. Is he feeling the pressure? And what he said was that he's more interested in seeing the team play, a cohesive style of play and play, attractive football. And that's what he's worried about because as of right now, the team hasn't shown that. If, let's say, Laurent Courtois manages to develop that free-flowing style of play and not reaching the playoffs, would you be satisfied, Andy?
I mean, as far as him not reaching the playoffs, I'm okay with it. I might eat my words here because the fan side of me, the fan side of me obviously wants my team to go to the playoffs, right? I think we all agree as fans, we want our team to go to the playoffs every time. But when you look at it, um, based on the moves that were done in the past 2 weeks, the way I'm seeing, if I'm reading between the lines, and Hady, when he asked that, he was asked that question, I think he chose his words very carefully as opposed to the Joseph Martinez one, where he said, "I was asked certain things from the club, and I wanted to play a certain way. I was asked to play a certain way." And I think what he did throughout the season was, look, guys, you guys gave me a hand, not really something I collaborated in doing. You guys gave me certain players, and I tried my best to do what I could with them. Now give me the players I want, working with Corey Ray closely, right? So now these 9 games for him, again, not speaking from a fan's perspective, because fans, 1,000%, I will say, please win every game and make the playoffs. That's what I want. But what I want to see, what I think Laurent Courtois, the challenge he has in the next 9 games is really, okay, you know what? I have my players. I have what I asked for. And now let's start playing my style. Now let's start doing what I like to, because these are my profiles that I like, because he was allowed to give input into these profiles. So now let's roll up my sleeves. And I think after these 9 games, whatever happens, I don't know if they'll lose every game. I really hope not. But if they win any games or whatnot, the big win that we want, I think we should be aiming to see, is him developing his style with these new players and seeing these players learn it, right? So that's what I think. If there's a game I would circle in those 9 games, and I think the players and Laurent Courtois and even probably the ones above circled it, is the Chicago game. Because you guys remember how much they mentioned after, even I think a month after or 2 months after, the Chicago game was the worst game. The Chicago game was the worst game. The Chicago game really hurt us. So why not kick their butts while you're playing them again, as a little reminder, right? Because it was hurtful. Even as a fan, I couldn't rewatch the game for a little bit. But yeah, so that's what I think. As a fan, I want them to win every game. But as you know, as trying to analyze the situation, you try to see Laurent Courtois, what is he going to do with the profiles he has now that he wants, and how is he going to deal with the next few games?
Interesting. I'll let you continue with the last question of this segment. Let's take a look at the standings, Eve. And we're going to try to be bold and to really give our opinion and to give what we think will happen. Very, very, very early predictions. Where do you think CF Montreal would finish the season, Andy? I'll start with you. You have to choose a position. We all know that it might not be the right answer, but where do you think CF Montreal will be on the 19th of October?
The 8th.
Oh,
I don't know.
Okay. 8th position for
being
Andy.
too nice.
Okay.
I'm being too nice.
Okay.
Too nice.
No,
nice.
you're good. You know what? You're good. Why not? Eve. Eve is gonna say 14th for sure.
No. I said it
13
several times actually, and I will stick with my number because it is my lucky number by this point, because Montreal has finished that season in that position more times than I care to admit. 10th. I am using my law of averages, because the only time that I did not predict them, or the only time that I predicted them to finish 10th and they did not, was during the second year of Wilfred Nancy's reign, wherein I expected too many players would leave. Wherein I expected too many players would leave too soon, and actually Montreal held on to them to the off season. But otherwise, my prediction of 10th position has held up 3 out of 4 seasons, and therefore, it is.
Elias?
Look, you need mid to high 40s to really comfortably make the playoffs in the Eastern Conference. And that means you got to get at least 5 or 6 wins out of the next 9. The likelihood of that happening is...
Do it, Elias. Do it.
Slim.
Come on. Yes.
Slim, welcome. Right? Especially, look, if I look at, on paper, the quality of this squad, I have no doubt they make the playoffs. But the thing is, all year, this squad has been underperforming based on how good they are.
Or
right?
injured.
or injured, right? I think that's across the board in all three phases. I think at some point in the season, some part of the team has significantly underperformed. Now, you add up all that nonsense. Does that equate to enough to make the playoffs? Yeah. Do they maybe squeak in? Maybe. I see they have an outside chance. But again, the ability for them to comfortably make the playoffs, I'd be very surprised. And I think it's going to go down to decision day. But again, that's a game against NYCFC, and we all know how that goes. So.
But you didn't answer the question.
Oh, Elias.
Which position?
Yes, they're going to finish 9th.
Hady, what do you say?
Yes.
What's your
Listen,
number?
Yes.
honestly, I feel we're going to be between 9th and 11th position. It's going to be one of those three.
Between.
But my guess will be.
You can
if
give
I
a
have
bracket?
to choose a number. No. If I have to choose a position, I would say 9th. But I would say 9th because I feel that you look at the schedule and we're playing against those teams that we're fighting against. And usually in Montreal, when we're playing against like high pressure games, most of the time we do well. And that's the reason why I would think that there's a possibility for us to be 9th. I like our home games. I really like our home games. I feel that 4 out of 5 will be really, really nice games to watch. I'm happy that I'll be able to be at each one of those games, and I think it's gonna be an amazing end of the season. Whatever the final position is, I think we're gonna live we're gonna go through some really nice games until the end of the season. So I can't wait. It's gonna be fun. Good. So, guys, I want to hear your thoughts. So Andy said 8th, Elias, he said 9th, Eve 10th, and I said 9th. Who thinks otherwise? Who agrees with who? That's going to be very, very interesting. We have Wellington that says the team has to fight very hard to make it to the playoffs. I'm hoping against hope they will be able to do it. So wait and see. We do have quite a few questions. Thanks a lot, everybody, for sending us your questions. We have 12 questions before the show, and I think there was a couple that were sent during the show. I don't know, Elias, if you have time to go add them, or you know what, Eve can add them to the stream.
From where? Sorry.
It's okay. I'll do it. So let's start with the first question. Eve.
I'm going in order that I see them here. So I'm starting with Amin.
Good. Let's start with Amin.
Okay.
Will Lassie and Wanyama have... sorry. Go ahead, Eve. Go ahead.
Why, thank you. Will Lassie and Wanyama have minutes by the end of the season, knowing that they are not coming back next year and that they are in the top 3 of the highest paid? There are currently 26 players on the roster, 25 if Montreal sells Choignard.
Andy, yours.
It's hard to say. I mean, they haven't given Wanyama minutes unless the situation calls for it, and now with Piet healthy and Saliba probably coming back, I don't see it. Lassie's position, I think. I'm going to be honest. I think we're pretty stacked in that position, and I think the club and the coach would rather give more minutes to the newcomers than somebody that's already there and has a history of injury. So I don't see them getting that many minutes unless, of course, the situation, injuries, knock on wood, that they don't happen for these players, right? But I don't see them getting many minutes.
Yeah.
Anybody else
I
wants
agree.
to add on this?
Right.
I agree wholeheartedly.
Good.
All
So
right.
you have your answer. I mean, feel free
Hive
to
mind.
ask another question if you
Okay.
have any. So go ahead with the
Next
one.
up, Emil asks, in Ray, we trust.
So zoomed in.
I love that.
C'est toto.
In Ray we
C'est toto.
trust. Yeah, I agree. I agree with Andy. Still too early.
Okay,
Still too early to say.
I'll come in. Full disclosure, there is a part of me that carries that trauma and says Kevin Gilmore was part of this team as a consultant before he became whatever you want to call him.
But
God.
Corey
I
Ray,
carry that trauma in my heart.
yeah. But Corey Ray comes from
Why is it a trauma?
Columbus. He has experience in the Crew and
He
in
does.
Toronto FC.
Yeah, I agree.
Terry Gilmore had experience with the Ducks of
Hockey
Anaheim.
teams, yeah.
Yeah, so
And he watched
bit of a
LAFC and
difference.
loved them profoundly. I hope
Exactly.
he's enjoying them still.
But I mean, it's the same questions that people are asking. Sorry, if I cut you off. I'm so sorry, but
no, go ahead.
it's the same question that people are asking They're asking way too soon about in Laurent Courtois do we trust? In Ray do we trust? And I mean, it's too soon to get a. Have we really gotten the best sample of both? Anyways, I'm sorry. Go on.
No, all good. I agree with you overall. It's a very small sample size by which to judge, and especially given that it's a mid-season transfer window versus like the off-season, wherein, although it's like mid-season for many other leagues in the world, it is kind of a more liberating period of time, I guess, for Montreal or for MLS teams. It's a small sample size to judge by, but the moves that have been made during the time that he has been publicly part of Montreal, I think makes sense for the vision that the club is embodying. So I guess like I'll give like a tentative thumbs up, but again, the sample size is really too small for me to be like, yeah, we trust. And also I never trust.
Yeah, I
we know better.
Let's
than
talk about that.
Here.
She's something else. But no, but honestly, Ray, I agree with Eve. Honestly, I really like what has been done since he was nominated. So, but again, sample size pretty small. But as of right now, I really like it. Hopefully, those players will come in and bring that added value. I don't know why I'm quite confident in some of these players. So hopefully we'll see them really perform.
Indeed.
Isn't it important as well to notice that? Sorry. Isn't it important to notice also that the kind of trust that Laurent Courtois has with Corey Ray, having worked with him already, because the communication must be so fluid between the two, because it's not like they're learning each other. They've already worked together. So that definitely makes it for a level of trust from the two of them. The two of them, right? It's not like they're like getting to know each other every day. They've already worked. How long did they work together? 2 years, I think. I believe in Columbus Crew too.
Yeah,
that's a long time to both know each other's tendencies, to like what they like, what they don't like, what they're not communicating, what they are communicating. So that's, I think, a big factor in seeing how fast we're seeing some of these things happen with such short amount of time, is because they knew each other. So yes, we're getting a small sample size in the MLS, but they already work together, these two individuals. So it's important to see the level of trust between the two of them and what they're seeing, what the other one is seeing, how they communicate. I think that happens in any club, the chemistry.
Yeah, maybe. I'm pretty sure there's chemistry between them. So hopefully that translates into good performances for CF Montreal. So let's wait and see, like I usually say. Moving on, next question.
After Courtois' statement about Martinez, how will CF Montreal manage the use of Joseph until the end of the season? Normal use, as if everything was fine, or, as we always like to call it, the ball is round, doghouse.
Elias.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a mixture of both. I don't think he'll have as little minutes, as you said, as Wanyama. I still think he'll get used more than Wanyama will, but I definitely think his usage is going to drop now that it's kind of out in the open. This has been a way they've been feeling for a while now. But Courtois, whenever a manager comes out and speaks publicly to the media on the record, I think that the relationship is not beyond repair, but is very, very badly damaged.
I don't agree.
And honestly, I think that if it's out in the open, and especially if people like Caden Clark start performing and Mahala Poku discovers his form, he could be relegated to maybe a luxury super sub. But at the end of the day, really, what do you think?
He's in a doghouse. He's never going to play again. As simple as that.
At the end of the day, it's also necessity, right?
Laurent Courtois said the guy betrayed me. Like,
those are strong words.
Are those words?
Unless he betrayed him
I
against
don't like his attitude, and then he can come back and say, he changed his attitude. He said the guy that I spoke with before his signature is not the same guy that's right now within the team. That's the first thing. Second thing he said, I give my confidence to the players until they betray me. And third thing he said that, we're now seeing the true colors of the player. There's no coming back from that. There's no
No,
coming back
I
from
think from a
that.
relationship standpoint, I agree. But I think now it's going to be a battle of wills. And
Yeah.
if again, like if the new signings come in and they perform, and Caden Clark is a world beater, and you get what you need in the aggregate without needing him, then yeah, I agree. His minutes will be cut to bones.
But
Yeah, but you never really can tell with this team.
0 minutes. 0 minutes. 0, 0, 0.
Hady.
Like
Hady.
Laurent Courtois will let the ship sink.
Yeah.
Or sorry, will
Yeah.
let the ship sink.
Oh, speaking of steps.
Yeah.
But no,
Yeah,
it's
100%.
But
He's
I mean,
preparing next season
like-
now. Like he's not gonna play with José Martinez again. It's done.
No.
Bold.
Nada. 0.
you guys are
Sorry,
not
go ahead,
willing.
Andy.
Well, okay, Hady, you're not willing to see if maybe Laurent Courtois, maybe because again, we're speaking about a rookie coach, okay, and there's
And a
learning curves to
very
the rookie coach,
experienced
and
player.
and a very experienced player, and beyond that, press conferences are a big part of a coach's job in any sport. And and being coached on that and knowing what to say and selecting the words regardless of the emotions before and after games and practice, right? And we don't know the gravity of the situation. Maybe he really did betray him, or maybe it was just an action that he felt was betrayed. But that's why, in my opinion, what I think we need to watch for the next, what we're going to learn about Laurent Courtois in the next few months is what kind of coach he is. Is he the kind of coach that maybe he's used the wrong kind of words? And because remember how we went crazy when Olivier Renard in one of his press conferences said, I don't want to make if you guys want to see a team that goes to the playoffs, you guys go need to see another team or something of that sort.
No,
and people went
when's
crazy
MLS
on
Cup
him,
not going to the playoffs?
or something of that sort. Something, and he said, no, go see another team or signs big stars. But the reality is that sometimes they need to be trained on this. So and we're gonna see, does Laurent Courtois really mean what he said that day, or is he willing to give his players like Joseph Martinez? Hady's like, I don't want to hear it.
No, but like
But
honestly,
Hady's made up his mind. Yeah.
no, but honestly, think about it. Perception is everything.
you were there. You were there. Yeah.
No, my perception is everything. That's something that I learned at my job. We're talking about soccer. Soccer, like it's 10 times more important. Perception is 10 times more important. What is the perception that what is the message that he's sending when he said this player betrayed me, and then he would give him minutes and starts? This is not the message that he wants to send.
Mhm.
He said those words,
But
he's never going back on that. I don't see it unless Joseph Martinez and something else happens and there's a big apology, or what, Laurent Courtois says, I said what I said, and Joseph Martinez came and we talked for maybe half an hour and he gave me everything, and we decided to maybe leave that away and start a new relationship. That's a possibility, but I doubt it very much.
But I mean,
Fair
the
enough.
same thing happened with Matias Kokaro. You guys remember that when he went off in the field and we questioned. And one of the things that Laurent Courtois said that time about the Kokaro situation was that he said he apologized to his teammates for his actions. So like you said, Hady, there's that thing of him like where the player says, I effed up. It's me. I shouldn't be this way. I'm a professional. I blah, 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 blah. I've grown up past this. You're absolutely right, Hady. In a workplace,
the coach
how
never
does that
said.
work?
The coach never said about Kokaro that he betrayed him and that he showed his true colors. Those words are very strong, as Eve said a bit earlier.
Mhm.
I don't know. For me, there's no coming back on that, but I don't know what everybody thinks. I don't know, our listeners, if somebody has an opinion regarding that. I think we said our piece. I don't know if Eve and Elias, you want to add anything else on this? You're good.
good.
Let's move on to the next
Okay.
question.
Also from Dr. Foot, he asks again, CF arrivals bear the touch of Corey Ray. Is he the future sporting director of the club? And your expectation for Gervais' conference on Tuesday?
Go ahead, you can answer.
Okay. I mean, I feel like it's kind of weird to bring somebody in, and I say this having spoken about Kevin Gilmore like a few breaths ago, I almost feel like this is like a biding time kind of thing for both Coire and Montreal. So for me, I don't know if he has a future in Montreal necessarily, because given the way that Montreal kind of approaches their team construction, I think like you do have to have kind of a particular vision to align with that. And by that, I mean, I guess like kind of the overarching, because at the end of the day, it is the sporting director who is accountable for the decisions made with the roster. Predictions for Gervais' press conference, though. So my answer for Corey Reyes, I don't see him here in the long term. Prediction for Gervais' press conference. I kind of think he's going to talk around a lot of the turmoil around the team. I don't expect a lot of concrete answers. I expect kind of a lot of him doing his best to deflect the criticism that has come towards the on-field product that we've seen this year. That's my prediction. Even though in private, I think he's having different conversations.
Go ahead, Elias, if you have anything.
No, I think this year, I talked about it a bit after the Gervais first press conference when, Correa was announced an hour before it or something. I really do think that this seems like a trial period because for whatever reason, right, they were unsure of one another, or they were still feeling, Correa wasn't, 100% sold on the project. But I think, as far as connecting with not just Gabriel Javet, but the staff, I think Correa's had the chance to really kind of get involved. And, you could tell by some of these signings, that's Correa definitely had a hand in that. And like Dr. Foot said, right, people from TFC, he definitely either orchestrated or facilitated what is arguably the biggest signing of this window for Montreal. Mm-hmm. And I think that, if they're really throwing their support behind him, they're saying, if you identify this guy and he's solid, we will put up the GAM or the trade fodder or whatever it is you need to kind of get those players in the door. Especially if they work, right? If Marshall Rudy is a hit and he takes off and is improved and his progression continues to improve at a really steady rate, then yeah, I mean, I think he's going to get more and more liberty. I think at the end of the day, yeah, I think Montreal's intention is to make him the full-fledged sporting director. Now, whether or not Corey finds this an attractive enough project or not remains to be seen. But at the end of the day, from a project perspective, this is the guy that helped lay the foundation for the Columbus Crew as we know them today, right? So from an ideological, from a philosophical perspective, he fits right into what CF Montreal want to see in terms of style of play. And so from that perspective, I'm not at all concerned. Now it's just, can Montreal make an attractive enough project for him to want to stay on? Because at the end of the day, he is someone that's extremely well sought after. He's arguably, one of the bigger executive names in MLS. And if he wants to go to Europe, I'm sure there's a lot of clubs that need a sporting director that will be interested in picking him up. So now Montreal, and this is also why I'm not too surprised that Montreal was not just bringing in a lot of people, but also splashing some cash. It's because they kind of want to show that, if Olivier Renard was a divorce, this is Montreal getting back out there. And, this is the first person you meet that you're really excited about. And you're like, okay, I'm going to I'm going to try and impress you and show that I can also do some stuff to keep you interested. Nice. At least start. And then we can, expand on the relationship. So I think that, the winter window will be, I think, what either convinces me he's staying or not, because that's when the real changes are made for a season.
I would add a couple of things. I think that he's going to stay. I think Gabriel Gervais wanted to see if he can get along with him before signing him, and I feel that doing all those deals and those signings for me is a proof that everything's running smoothly in a way. Mm-hmm. So yeah. I feel he will stay he will become the sporting director. I don't think that's a problem. As for Gabriel Gervais' presser, what I would say I feel like Gabriel Gervais is going to say exactly what he said that he will do, and he's going to repeat exactly what he said that he will do last time. He said, I made so many changes when I took over as president on all, sponsorship front, financial partnerships and everything. And right now, I told you guys when I was the interim sporting director, when I became the interim sporting director, that I will take a look at everything and I will start making decisions. And he's making decisions right now. So that's what he's going to say. He's going to say, I started taking decisions. I started doing stuff. And you know what? This is only the beginning. We're going to continue everything in the winter. That's what I think he's going to say. This is going to be that. To answer Patrick's question, when is the presser again? It's on Tuesday. Sorry, we're doing it as
great minds.
So yeah, so it's on Tuesday. Andy, want to add something on that?
Yeah, I definitely think that this is until the end of the season. It's a test for Corey Ray. Similar to Hady, I think they're trying to see what's the dynamic between him and Laurent Courtois, what comes out of that dynamic, and how does Gabriel Gervais sees his value that is added in the sporting side, based on what we see from here to the end of the season and the production of these players that he brought on. The JMR signing is really Corey Ray written all over it. Over it. So that has to be one of those projects that if it flops, there's going to be questions asked because they did splash money. I mean, it wasn't cheap either. So, but that has him written. And as far as the presser, honestly, if it's anything like the last one, which they warned us also like a week ahead, it's going to be a PowerPoint presentation with this, like Hady said, this and that and that and that. So, will we learn anything new? Probably not. Just probably clarify certain things, but it's not like I don't think he's going to make any big announcements. I mean, last time he announced a presser was right after they announced that Corey Ray was hired as a consultant, so that was a big part of it. But right now they haven't announced anything, so I can't see any drastic questions being asked beyond that clarification.
Okay.
But yes, I do believe that Corey Ray is worth keeping, in my opinion. In my personal opinion, I think he could be an excellent sporting director, and I hope people can forgive the fact that he doesn't know French. So I think he's an excellent sporting director.
All right. Shall we move to the next question? Yes. All right. Next up from Fendesport. Talk about the two new, I assume, players, and explain to me the gap in the GAM that was spent on both of them. L'écart de gamme, I'm assuming, is the gap in GAM that was spent on both. So let me see. I wasn't here last week, so I don't, and full disclosure, I was on the road when you all recorded last week, so I did miss what you said. So, Hady, do you want to maybe?
Yeah, for sure. So, there's a difference in GAM, and like we said a bit earlier, the reason why there's a difference, first of all, length of the contract. Caden Clark had a contract until the end of the year only, so that's why it's only 50,000 in GAM. And Jaquil Marshall-Rutty had, I think, 2 years left on his contract. Second of all, Jaquil Marshall-Rutty is younger by 2 or 3 years younger than Caden Clark. I think 2 years younger than Caden Clark. So, of course, it's more expensive. And third of all, the potential of someone like Jaquil Marshall-Rutty is a lot greater than the potential that Caden Clark, as per the transfer market in soccer, because of Caden Clark already going to Europe, not really, his move not really working, coming back to the MLS. So he tried that move already, so that influences a bit his value. In Jaquil Marshall-Rutty, he never did that jump yet. And he's never had some very, very consistent minutes as of Caden Clark, who was a starter for the Red Bulls quite a few times. So that's the difference between the two. That's why you have Marshall Ruddy that was a lot more expensive than Caden Clark.
Right on. Anything to add, Andy or Elias, on that point?
No.
All good.
I'm excited. I hope they pay us, man.
It's gonna be fun. Well, let's we do have a comment from Patrick. Can we agree though that we will need to replace Wanyama's salary and DP spot on an offensive guy? It all depends. Yes. As of Andy said earlier, we need a midfielder. So are we gonna sign another midfielder and get that money?
Why do we need? We'll see. Why do we need to replace the DP spot? Why? Is that going to be the solution?
Wanyama's leaving at the end of the year, right?
No, I'm saying is it because he thinks that replacing it will be a solution to winning? Is that what he's asking?
Well, typically a DP is a difference maker on most teams, not necessarily Montreal, but on most teams, a DP is an important, influential player who can turn the tide of a game. Again, if you have only watched Montreal matches, you may not grasp this.
No, but I mean, we saw it in Chicago.
I'm not making fun of you, Andy. Sorry, it's more the general concept of how Montreal is played.
No offense taken, but no, in Chicago, the shirt and Shaqiri was a DP, right? And didn't work out, and same with Toronto, right? So that's why when I ask, I'm not asking sincerely why we need to. I understand the importance of a DP, but the point that it's that won't be. Georgi Mihailovic, we speak of him like he was a DP, but he wasn't. He was a cheap player that we got that was being played in the wrong position because
wasn't he a DP spot his last year? The last year, I think.
And then I'm speaking out of turn. I'm sorry, I'm speaking.
But you're right though. Like the first year where he was really good, he was in a TAM spot, not a DP spot. So you're right.
Yes,
I don't remember that specific detail.
Yeah.
But what I'm going at is we speak of him like he was such an same with Kone and these other players that were impactful in the game. Alistair Johnston as well. But they weren't DPs. They were impactful players in the field. So a DP can't guarantee anything. So that's when I asked, why do we have to replace him? That's not going to be our ultimate solution. This team, the way this team has been built so far, it doesn't seem like a DP is a priority in this team. It's more of what the bargain and potential will be, unless again things change, right? And philosophies change, which could happen. But
we can dream.
Yeah.
All right. Next question. All right. Next up is from Jeremy, who asks, would we have had the same ego problems this season with Nancy or Lozada as coach? So I can only assume this must relate to the words spoken in, exactly. The most recent press conference with Courtois and Elias. Do you want to take that on?
Yeah, I think that, and Sam says it as well, right? Martinez and Wanyama played for big managers. The attitude, quote unquote, problems never came out with Mourinho or Tata or Mihailovic. And that is true, right? At the end of the day, egos only respond to egos at the end of the day. And, if you're someone with an ego, borderline problematic ego, as maybe the case now, you're not going to respond to, like you said, a rookie coach, no matter how good the ideas are. I mean, Samuel Eto'o walked into Pep Guardiola's office when he was a rookie saying, you don't know anything. I'm a great player and you're nothing, right? This is Pep Guardiola here, even though he was a rookie. So at the end of the day, players like that are going to be players. And I don't think the manager would have been any different. I think, if it's under Wilfried Nancy and they're winning and all that stuff, then maybe it's less of a problem because, the result at the end of the day, results curb everyone's mood and everyone's feeling better. Kind of like how we saw at the beginning of the year. But I think for all the managers themselves would not have changed how this would have played out. Maybe, Courtois was quicker to bring it into the media than the other two managers would be. But at the end of the day, behind closed doors, I don't think it would have changed a whole lot.
Fair. Andy, anything to add, refute, etc.?
Similar to Elias, I just think that it comes with the fact that he is a rookie coach and he is new and he has probably a lot of learning. We don't know what happened after that press conference that tweet. I think it was Hady's tweet that went viral at the beginning. That we have no idea whether they said, "Hey, Laurent, come here. You need to let's go through media one-on-one training, right? Like what you can and cannot say, because it's true. Like I remember, I didn't follow the team that closely then, but when Wilfred Nancy was here, he was kind of had issues with Anthony Jackson Hamel,
Yeah.
right? And we only saw it
Different
through.
level of player, but yeah.
I think, but he had issues with him, whatever it may be,
Mhm.
egotistical or arrogance. We don't know, but
Yeah.
we only saw it because somebody was present at practice. But beyond that, they found a way to twist the story. They found a way to So I think it's just a rookie coach here. So,
Fair. Hady, anything to add before we move on?
No, we can move
All
on.
right. Next up is JP, who asks, first Q to the pod crew. By Q, he means question. Hi, JP. So if the business completed was Ray's work and the signings and exits proved successful, and by successful, JP seems to imply we make it to the playoffs, do you think he will be given a permanent role? So, I think we kind of probably touched on this as to whether, Ray is here to stay or not. For me, I still see him as kind of using this as a stepping stone in the short term to kind of bigger and better things just based on his previous track record. I know you guys have already spoken on it. Did anyone else want to add anything or adjust your stance whatsoever?
I would just add one thing.
Okay.
I don't think it's tied to us making the playoffs or not.
Yeah.
I don't think that it's tied to that.
money.
I feel that it's all about the relationship of Gervais with Ray, like I said earlier. So
Yeah.
that's the only thing that's gonna matter.
Sure.
That's my own opinion. Eve, you said that it's a stepping stone.
Mhm.
Elias, you agreed with Eve, if I'm not mistaken.
Thank you.
And Andy, you said it's the relationship between Ray and Courtois. So
And that it was a tryout for him for the GM position at Toronto.
Exactly.
I've said those words.
Exactly.
It's recorded.
but
We got you.
Yes, and I'll say it again. But you know what? I do want to give a shout out to JP because he does write about Montreal in France. And he's messaged me personally. So
Cool.
just a quick shout out to JP. He's
Nice.
Very, very nice. Yeah.
Awesome.
Good.
Alrighty then. Next question comes from Simpa, who asks, this might seem like a silly question, but do you really believe in the CF Montreal project? What would you change? Oh boy, that's a big question. What would you change in the current model to improve the project? I'm just gonna make gestures here.
Oh.
No, but I agree with you. I think that at the end of the day, your academy can only take you so far.
Yeah.
You're not La Masia. But if you want to be like Benfica or Dortmund or even Ajax, where you have this ability to bring in great young talent and make them better, you have to go out and buy the young talent. You can only, find a diamond in the rough every so often before,
There are a finite number of Ishmael Kones on the planet.
Exactly, right?
Who
And
did not come from the academy. It was just sheer luck.
exactly, right?
Yeah.
They brought him to the academy for 15 minutes before they brought him to the first team at the end of the day, right? There's a finite number of Samuel Piet, Monsieur Chouanier, not Samuel Piet. But if you go out and you buy a player for 50K or 100K and say like, all right, this is going to be the next big young star and he's going to help us and he's going to improve significantly and we're going to ship him off for Chouanier, Johnston, Kone money. That's not the case. You have to spend money to make money in a case like that. So, you have to start fighting for these young talents, these kids that, other MLS clubs are bringing in whose project isn't exactly the same as yours, but has still managed to get these young talented players. You have to find a way to make yourself attractive to them. And that is through, spending money at the end of the day. Because the more money you spend, the better youngsters you get in. I'm not necessarily saying spend $10 million to get a world-class youngster, but definitely a promising one that you can improve and improve your standing in this community of growing clubs, and then help him get to the next level in his career. Then you build good faith with these youngsters that are looking at MLS as an actual real stepping stone to Europe. So at the end of the day, I think, like you said, right, it's all about the money, but not necessarily going out and splashing cash on big names, but definitely on the exciting youngsters you want. You have to spend money on them and not just kind of, try and hit the jackpot every time. Sometimes you have to go for the sure thing.
And Patrick says, if you need that guy or guys in MLS to compete with the roster we have the supporting cast. Now we need the star.
What? I think he said it well. I like that.
Yeah.
We have the stars. We have Victor Wanyama as a star. Joseph Martinez is a star.
They were.
I don't know, man.
In paper.
Even still,
I mean,
I'm not
if you're expecting Joseph Martinez to score 20 goals this year at the beginning of the season, then I have a bridge to sell you. Like that was never going to be the case, right? Even Victor Wanyama, like I was expecting him maybe to be better than he was last year under Losada, but like he was, I don't think he was going to get to
that's why I said on paper. Very important on paper, right? Like,
but I feel that when Patrick wants to say when he talks about a star, he means a real star. Olivier Giroud signing in LAFC, Marco Reus signing in Los Angeles
Anthony
Galaxy.
Martial, as he mentioned earlier, would be a star signing for Montreal.
But I don't think we're gonna have that kind of star.
Can get.
So can I answer that question of do we believe in the CF Montreal project? Because
go for it.
I do believe in it. I do believe in that project. Mm-hmm. This is why I'm so passionate about this club, because I do believe in that project. If we could change something, you guys said it, money. But the money I think this club should focus on is building a clear path for the youngsters to create grow here. So yes, I know that they've grown in sponsors and I think affiliations with different clubs around Quebec, but there's still no MLS Next Pro. And this discussion, we can do a whole podcast about MLS Next Pro, but it's not. It's just like giving a clear path to these players, because sometimes they won't hit the pros right away. But what are you doing with those that take a little bit of time to develop? So spend the money on your scouting department to invest more on give your scouting department more material and more higher network or whatnot. I wouldn't spend this so much on money more than just getting more information and giving more opportunity to the youngsters already here in Quebec. That's what I would change about the plan. Obviously, I don't know what they're doing today and tomorrow, but maybe it is part of the plans. But that's what I would change in this project. But I do believe in it.
Interesting.
Perfect.
Shall we move on? Yeah. Next up comes from Robbie, who asks, what move of the just completed transfer window do you like the most? Could be an acquisition or a departure. And Andy is already ready to take this one on. Okay, Andy is raising two fingers, which means I think you have two moves that you like.
No, I like both of them. I do like the more recent ones. The more recent one. Pierce gave us one beautiful cross that I think everybody was tripping out about, which was because we hadn't seen a
Montreal cross the whole dry.
We haven't seen crosses from Rouen. We've seen crosses from Rouen, and that's all we had.
And crosses to the third post from everyone else.
Yeah, exactly right. So it's when we see Tom Pierce do a decent cross to our star strikers, if you want, we're like, holy smokes, it exists, right? But
Lord help us.
It doesn't mean it doesn't mean it. So very small sample for them, but based on the speculation and based on just their potential, I like the signings in general. The new signings, I'm excited for them. I'm excited to see what more they can bring. I think again, I said at the beginning, this club is a big believer in second chances. Be it about injury or playing time or whatever, because they've made the purposes very clear as to why they're coming here, right? Clark said, I'm coming here because I do want to go back to Europe, and I'm using this as a stepping stone. JMR said, I'm coming here. I'm a Toronto kid, but I came here because I have the opportunity to play. Very clear. Tom Pierce, same thing, right? So they're very clear in the sense that Montreal is not because they absolutely love this club. No, they're using it as a personal stepping stone to the next step. So I'm excited for it to see, hungry kids, hungry people to play for this team again.
They're going to be motivated for themselves, if nothing, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, fair enough. Hady?
Kaden Clark.
Yeah.
I love this player.
I feel like we've talked about him before on this podcast as honestly, like a dream signing, kind of. Yeah.
Yeah, I really love what he brings on the pitch. I feel that he's gonna be, if he finds his form back, I think he's gonna be very, very good for this team. Can play 8 or 10. Good. He has good finishing. He's able to create a bit of stuff. He adds space to the team. You know, we talked a lot about Bryce Duke and his technical abilities that are very, very interesting. But we also said that he's very, very slow. Caden Clark is the opposite. He's good. He's good technically, but not as good as Bryce Duke, but he's fast, man. And I think that that's what we need. You know, in the Courtois ball, I think you need that kind of player. And I can't wait to see him on the pitch because I feel that he's going to be a difference maker for the team.
Right on.
Bryce Duke and Clark.
Shall we see? Elias, anyone else you wanted to mention?
If you look at
Holy Gale needs to slow her roll.
Holy Gale wants
with who's 15 million? Gale.
Oh no, Charlotte wanted to sign him for like 25 million.
Yeah.
They said no.
We talked about it.
We need a DP. We need stars. We need a DP. We need stars.
25 million.
You know how much Newcastle content I consumed thanks to Elmron going there? Thanks, Holy Gale. Elias, back to you.
Sorry.
My favorite, and it depends on how you quantify best, right? I think my favorite is probably Jaquil Marshall-Rudy, just because I is one of those players that you hate to love, not love to hate on rival teams, because you're like, that's a really good fucking kid. And I hate that he was playing for Toronto, because even if he didn't hurt Montreal that often, and he actually helped Montreal last year getting sent off. He was a really, really good young talent, and he always seemed to pop up in really, really good moments. But I think bang for your buck, I really like David Bugai. And it's weird that I'm saying both, given that they're competing for a spot, but I really, really like what I saw from David Bugai. And not just, the Tom Pierce kind of, that was a really good cross. I haven't seen a good cross like that in a long time. But the defensive solidity, the willingness to get forward, and we haven't really seen much with regards to his delivery offensively yet. But I really like what I saw in terms of a partnership with Joel Waterman on that right side. And it defensively, at least, because I don't want to put him on too big a pedestal, but defensively, that looked like Alistair Johnston and Joel Waterman on that right side. And I really, really was impressed. And he brings that extra bit of height. And honestly, that right side could be completely locked down. The left side did have some problems, as we saw, but the right. So I think David Bugai is probably the best bang for your buck signing they made.
Interesting.
Do we have a recording of Hady saying that he hates everybody from Toronto?
Yeah.
Can we pull that up just to see how passionate he was about his hate for everyone in Toronto?
I'm still not. You know what? I at the presser when Jaquil Marshall-Rudy spoke at the end, journalists, he went away, and then the journalists were asking me, hey, what do you think about what he said and everything? I'm like, he's a Toronto man. I don't know. I have a lot of trouble. Accepting.
Is your problem that he's from Toronto or that he played for Toronto? Those are two different things.
Both.
He sees red.
He said quite a few times. No. He praised Toronto quite a few times in the presser.
They give him a start. What's he gonna do? Shit on them?
I don't care, man. You're with the rival now. You can't praise the rival.
That's true.
You can't.
That's true.
I don't know.
Just don't mention it. Just don't talk about it.
I'm pretty sure he's going to be good on the pitch, and hopefully he will be that player, that difference maker that Elias is talking about. Now, is he going to be my favorite player? Personally, no, because he's, for me, a Toronto guy. As simple as that.
If Montreal could grow to love Juan, they could grow to love him. Let's.
There we go.
But he didn't play for Toronto.
Juan may as well have played for Toronto with what he did.
Honestly, yeah. No, there are plenty of Montreal players who came. Dominic Oduro was loved by Montreal, but he played for Toronto previously.
Yeah, but like he played 1 year for Toronto or 2 years.
So?
It wasn't very. He was more Montrealer than Toronto.
Well, let's hope that Rudy ends up like that at the end of his career too. Then
For real, he's so early. Yeah, I'm not.
I know you're
Of
not.
yours, yeah.
I think you have to let it go. I mean,
I will have my feeling.
Yeah, I can't.
Okay.
I think if he makes a goal, Hady, what will it take for you to celebrate?
I will celebrate. I'll be very happy, but he's never.
But then you'll remember he's from Toronto.
Exactly.
Then you'll remember
he'll sit down and just like hold his hands and
exactly.
I'll look over the press box.
Guys. Gabriel Heinze played for Marseille after he played for Paris. Okay, he played for Marseille. He gave them a title in 2010. I love the player. I just couldn't accept that he was a Marseille player, even if he was great for the team for the whole year. I never was able to accept that he was a Marseille player.
Okay.
It is me.
Well, you know what? I admire your strong principles, Hady. I do. I do.
Well, he's listening to the show. He's listening to the show.
Good.
And, he's gonna say,
good. I have nothing against him. He's just a Toronto player.
You kind of do.
That's wearing a Montreal jersey.
Remember
Lord
me?
Help us all.
It's a joke, obviously.
Lord help us all. All right, let's move on. For the love of all that is good and holy. Next question comes from G Money, who asks, so did Choinière get sold or not? Question mark. Didn't the deadline pass? Who wants to take this one on? Hady, do you want to pick up?
Yeah, for sure. So no, Choinière has not been sold as of right now. And no, the deadline didn't pass for selling players. So you can sell players whenever you want. It's not a problem to sell players. It's the buying team that has to make sure that they can register the player that they're buying. Mm-hmm. So in Europe, in Europe, most of the leagues have their transfer window closed either the 31st of August or the 1st of September. There's some leagues in Europe that are on the 16th or the 10th of September too. Like Turkey always is a few days later. Switzerland is one of those that's a few days later. So no, they're able to sign Mathieu Choinière because they're able to register him before the window closed. And as I said, it's not closed yet to Switzerland. So it should be done pretty shortly from what we hear. So let's wait and see.
Alrighty. That seems pretty cut and dry. Elias, Andy, all good?
Yeah.
Okay. Onwards.
Happy for him if it happens.
Fair enough.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm very happy.
There we go.
For sure.
Next question comes from Tate, who asks, for your American fans, what's your take on the U.S. men's national team apparent hire of Mauricio Pochettino for the head coach position? Elias, any thoughts?
Meh. I mean, it's the coach.
It's a coach.
Look, no,
you are
I mean,
correct.
it's definitely an improvement over Greg Berhalter. Apparently, until he's paid what he's owed from Chelsea, they can't hire him.
Right.
Because he still hasn't technically had his contract bought out yet until he's paid what he's owed, which would be just incredibly funny. But no, look, in all seriousness, they needed a tactician at this point. They needed someone who can, from a pure footballing perspective, organize a team. And see what you about Mauricio Pochettino. And again, his club career has not been as successful as he would have liked. I understand, but he knows his football. Mm-hmm. And I think he obviously has a really talented national team. But look, am I still gonna hate watch every game? Absolutely, you know.
That's the spirit, Elias.
Yeah,
that's the spirit.
He can get all the flowers he wants as long as they still lose. It doesn't really matter.
Andy, I saw you gesticulating a bit while I was going through the tweet. Anything to add?
I don't know if I mentioned it in this podcast before, but I was raised in the United States, so I'm kind of I did grow up watching the US, so I might be a minority in this podcast, and I do apologize for that. But I'm very excited. I'm very excited for the signing if it happens, because apparently he's owed money elsewhere.
One sec. Are you saying that you're rooting for the American national team? Are you a fan of the USMNT?
Next question, please.
Oh
Wow.
No way, man.
Think I lost my connection.
Oh,
But,
wow. Wow.
Okay.
Okay, wow.
Look.
Okay,
Okay, in all
wow.
seriousness,
US
both.
faces Canada in Edmonton in
Oh,
December. Who do you
oh.
cheer
What's the
for?
answer? What's the political response that Laurent
There's
Courtois should answer to everything? I will not accept or deny until something of that sort. But anyways,
Wow.
no, go Canada all
Wow.
the way. But listen, I was
there
Good.
very
you
excited for
go.
this.
There you go.
But
He got there. He got there
just
eventually.
because
That's all
I'm a
that counts.
minority. Wrong podcast, maybe another one. But in any case, like I said, it's exciting because when I was following it, we had Jurgen Klinsmann and we had all and we never were really taken seriously as a. I'm speaking like we are. They were never taken seriously
I'm just here like
as a as a as a soccer nation, and now they've started producing talent. And it just seems like they've always been wrong with the coaching selection. So when I heard that news, I kind of did a double take on the look because I did the same thing with Jesse March. I did the same thing. I kind of did a double take, like what is
Yeah.
going on? But the World Cup is a huge thing. It's a huge selling point for for these countries. So I think it's an opportunity for both of them to kind of both of these coaches to kind of prove what they can do in the national stage, and I think it's an excellent signing, and hopefully it can. I've seen some of the comments of what people have said that it's I think it's important for them to take that nation a little bit more serious as to how they're building it and how they're building an infrastructure for all that talent that the U.S. has coming through its system now. So yeah, I'm excited for them, for that country, and I hope they do well. So
10 out of 10 for your avoidance
Okay.
of belonging in the end of your answer, at least. Hady, I can only imagine for you because he's coached PSG, now theoretically coaching the U.S. men's national team. Of course, hasn't happened. I can only assume you are basically just like Mauricio Pochettino is second only to, I don't know, a Toronto player at the bottom of your list of people you respect in soccer.
No, yes, of course, I don't like him because of all that. Don't forget that he played also for Paris as a player too.
Thank you.
what is
but I
going
really don't like him. But you know what? You have to respect him.
Yeah.
Elias talked about his at the club level. I think he did pretty well.
Well, I mean, at Tottenham.
Look at the teams that he coached at
Yeah.
Espanyol.
Look at all the trophies he won.
Yeah, but like he was coaching Espanyol. You can't have a lot of trophies with Espanyol. Then one sec.
Tottenham won't.
And then he coached Southampton. Again, he did very well, and he got signed by Tottenham. And back then, Tottenham wasn't the Tottenham of right now.
No,
in
you're
2014, and he raised their level of play, and he brought them to the Champions League final. Do not forget that, which is not very easy to do.
Okay, but
but he's the one that built all that. He was there for 5 years, so you have to give him that. You have to give him the credit of building everything. And then he went to Paris. Of course, he won stuff at Paris because Paris. And then he went to Chelsea. And you know what? Sorry, but Chelsea is a shit show. So you can't you can't really judge anybody that coach Chelsea because
the US is a paragon, is a utopia, and with no problems and no.
That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is his pedigree as a coach is impressive. It's impressive, and I think it's a great catch for the US national team. Now, I don't like him. That's not going to change, but it's a great catch for this US national team. And I feel that if it doesn't work with Mauricio Pochettino, because of the shit show that is the USMNT, then I think that they're going to have a lot of trouble finding someone else that will make things work. Because if Pochettino cannot make things work for them, then I don't know who can make things work for you. So I don't know. At the same time, I hope they lose, they crash and burn. But
Whoa,
no,
whoa.
it's a good catch. I think for the national team. I think it's gonna make those games between Canada and the US even more interesting. So can't wait to see a matchup between those two.
I'm just absorbing everything. Sorry. I'm just taking it all in. We went through a roller coaster with this.
They want my head, Hady. It's been a good one, guys. It's been fun.
Short and sweet for Addy's for Andy's career here at the Ball is Round.
It was nice while it lasted.
Those hot takes. Woo. Okay. I would say you're ahead, but I don't even think you're ahead here.
No, they're. You saw Hady's face drop. I was like, oh my god.
I think I think there was like a emotional reckoning.
We do have a Wellington saying, of course, because nobody impresses Wellington. So Pochettino has not proved anything as a coach. He has nothing to show for. He won nothing with Tottenham, yes, but you know
who's
what?
Who's won something with Tottenham? Nobody has.
The only thing he won was the league with PSG.
Won nothing.
The only thing he won was a league with PSG, and like borderline, and you have to actively try and lose to lose Ligue 1 with PSG. No offense, Hady, but you have to actively try and lose Ligue 1 with PSG to not win it.
Yeah, that will.
It has to be active sabotage.
Guys, honestly, I'm really pissed off when someone talks about winning. There's not a lot of managers that have won stuff, right?
Well, there's a finite number of trophies that you can win,
Yeah, but
with the club.
What? So if he had won a charity shield, you would have been more in.
No.
Better than nothing.
I'm agreeing with you, Hady.
Just a winner.
Thanks, Eve.
Yeah, no, what I'm saying is I agree with the points that you made because several of the teams that he took over, not all of them because some of them have larger problems, but several of the teams that he led, he left them in a better place than when he arrived.
Exactly.
I agree.
And
the thing is, US
No, I was just going to say, you could look at, I hearken back to him all the time just because it's all I have. You hearken back to Wilfried Nancy. He didn't win in 2022 with Montreal, but can you say he accomplished nothing? No. Did he leave with any trophies in his cabinet? Aside from Canadian Championship stuff? No. But that doesn't denigrate the work that he did. And I see it the same for Mauricio Pochettino. Like you said, Elias, for PSG, the amount of money at their disposal, it is kind of a foregone conclusion that other opposition has to step their game up to the umpteenth degree to pose a challenge to them in Ligue 1. But other than that, I think Mauricio Pochettino has taken on some very, very challenging situations. And he's taking on another one as we look forward to it.
I think the best way to always judge them is what happened before and after they were there. Was it a big change from that club? Was he that impactful in a good or bad way? Like we saw with Hernan Lesara after Wilfried Nancy left, it was a bad impact after when he came in, and we saw a better impact when he left. So it's always about the before and after at the clubs that he's been he's been coaching, right? So at the end of the day, I think he's a name that's been in big clubs. But we'll see.
Indeed. In all seriousness, though, we still have questions in front of us.
Do we really?
Yeah, we do.
We are asking questions.
Thus,
let's go.
Next up is Simple Guy, who says, will a journalist ask Gabriel Gervais during his presser why some players don't want to be here?
If it's not a PowerPoint slide, then no.
I won't.
Okay. Go for it, Hady.
I won't be there, but Elias, are you going to be there?
We'll see if I can get the time off work. I'm not sure.
Okay.
Because I like Hady.
So speaking on behalf of TBAR, we're not sure. No, exactly. I'm kidding. Go for it. But okay, do you guys anticipate that question coming to Gabriel Gervais in his conference from anywhere?
I think so, because it has to do with the Joseph Martinez, which is the hot topic of the week. So it is probably going to go along in those lines. Like, what do we do with Joseph Martinez that doesn't want to be here? What do we do? What do we do with a Victor Wanyama that doesn't necessarily want to be here? What do we do with a Mathieu Chouanier that doesn't want to be here? Like, there's a lot of players that don't want to be here. And so what do we do with that? So I think it will.
Okay, fair enough. I guess we shall see, because I'm sure we're going to talk about it next podcast.
Yeah,
next Sunday.
For sure.
Yep.
Next
up comes from Len Saint-Gelais, who asks, with all of the changes and as well future sales of players, how can you attract new fans to the stadium when you have absolutely no stability in terms of players to identify with? Is this a bad team philosophy for Montreal, which is a unique or particular market?
Honestly, I feel that I feel that you do have players to identify yourself with, and those are the Quebecers. The Nathan Saliba, the Jonathan Sirois, the Samuel Pietz. Those are the players that you identify with, and that's the kind of project that CF Montreal wants to promote. Yeah, of course, it would be nice to have a Nacho Piatti. It would be nice to have a Marco Royce. It would be nice to have an Olivier Giroud, but that's not the project that CF Montreal wants to promote. Now, what's important, if you're choosing to promote that model with Jonathan Sirois, with Samuel Piet, with Nathan Saliba, with Mathieu Chouanier, those players, then you need results, because you need to show that those local guys can get you into the playoffs, can give you those emotions, can score goals, can make some good plays, and that's what you need to show. And Mathieu Chouanier did it last year under Hernan Losada. And again, even with Hernan Losada, at one point we had 6 Quebecers on the pitch as starters, and that was really, really appreciated by the Montreal fan base. So it's a different way of seeing this, of seeing soccer. I know that in North America we have a lot of trouble understanding a team and cheering for a team that's not here to win, but that's not the soccer culture. The soccer culture is a bit different. Yes, of course, everybody wants to win, but you're able to cheer for a club that doesn't win because it comes and it checks other boxes than the winning box. And of course, we're all aiming for the winning box, but getting other objectives done already sometimes is enough to build a fan base. I'm the perfect example with Marseille. We haven't won anything since 2010. And yet I'm still here, still following the team. So
there you go.
How many times is Hady going to mention Marseille in this podcast?
There is no limit.
Wait and see, my friend. Wait and see.
To the amount of times Hady can make a Marseille
do well this season. Oh my god!
I know. Oh boy,
it's over.
So I think we're done with the questions.
I believe we are. Yes.
Yeah. Good. So let's move on. Yeah.
I don't think it's a bad philosophy. I'm just going to say that. I just think fans need to understand what the philosophy is in order to be present at the games and appreciate what's going on. But if you're just there to see somebody from your own backyard, then you're going for the wrong reasons. You have to understand what the point is. So that's my opinion on that.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think that's what I said too. So yeah. So that's great. That's great. I think we agree on that here on the Ball is Round. So I think we can move on with the last topic. No, we do have a couple of things that we need to talk about. So first of all, our friends at Footy Prime had an interesting show a few days ago. Hosting Gabriel Carl and Evelyn Vian and talking about their relationship with Bev Priestman and what they lived with, what they went through under Bev Priestman. And we're not going to show the clip, and we would suggest you to go and listen to the Footy Prime because it was a very interesting episode, by the way, and they do an amazing job. And you know what? They don't really need us to promote them because they're so much bigger. But still, it was a very interesting episode. And Evelyn Vian and Gabriel Carl weren't very impressed with the way Bev Priestman was managing their time and was managing them in a way. And some very powerful words were said by Gabriel Carl saying that I never want to feel that again because she she felt that every time she was on the pitch, every time she made an error, she knew when the game was going to be finished that she was going to that the coaching staff was going to come and talk to her and tell her these are the mistakes that you did. Instead of really underlining her good things, they will underline only the negative stuff that you would bring on the pitch. What do you guys think about all that? Eve, I'll let you talk because you did the whole segment before. So I'll let you talk about that. There was a bit of mismanagement from the coaching staff, in my opinion. What do you feel? What do you think?
I mean, there's obviously, I think, an appropriate balance to strike, because when players make mistakes, you do want to correct those going forward, obviously, but there's a correct tone and a correct approach to take. There's kind of the philosophy needs to be, I think, a little bit more inclusive, particularly when you have such a short period of time with players, because there are undoubtedly contexts in like the club setting where a coach can like come down hard on a player, but then they're together with them the next day, the next week, the next few months to build that back up and to work on it and improve it. However, when you're in the national team setting, camps are so abbreviated, so short. You might only be together for 1 week or two, aside from, big tournaments. So to just kind of spend that time essentially tearing somebody down doesn't sound like a terribly productive style of coaching. So it was really disappointing, honestly, to hear about the experience that was lived by those players.
Yeah, I
Yeah, no,
agree.
it
I'm
was.
really surprised, and we always talked about how maybe tactically she wasn't there, but as a man manager, she was still really solid, and how she managed to, you know, really get uplift the team spirit. But then you hear people say this, and it kind of breaks down her entire image almost, because if tactically it wasn't there, but we
Even
had this
more,
image.
even more.
Even more, we had this image of Bev Priestman, who was, a leader of troops, who, was able to really get the players fired up. And, that was her management style. And, there's no one right way to manage a team, but that was the thing. And hearing how some of these players were not just feeling, kind of anxious playing for her, but even just to make a mistake, the second you have that anxiety and you clench your fists a bit harder, you overthink too much, because like, if I make a mistake, I know I'm going to hear all these things, right? So just having that culture set up is really upsetting, especially when, some of your most prominent players are saying it. It's not like someone who was in the national team once or twice and then was never heard from again, right? These are mainstays that are always called up, if not are always in the conversation for being called up. And I'm really disappointed, because it kind of pulls back the curtain on what it was like to play for her. And again, I'm sure that people that, had, we talk about her favorites all the time, right? I'm sure that they probably have a different experience. But at the end of the day, you're only as as a motivator, you're only as good as your least motivated player. So I
Yeah.
think that that's really telling to see maybe the disparity in how she was perceived as a manager, where some of the players on the outside really didn't feel valued or didn't feel coached properly, versus maybe some of the players that, were perennial starters that feel like, she was always in their corner, because they get the minutes and they get the consistent trust regardless of performance.
Indeed.
Yeah, well, pretty much the same thing going with Elias is in the sense that thing, like the way I heard when I heard it in the interview, it does seem like with her, I think they also chose players that were probably the most frustrated with her approach, because of how everything how everything played out for them. But at the end of the day, like the way they described the coaching from Andy Cohen was very much in the sense of like he gave them more liberty to express themselves. I think Evelyn mentioned that he was like he pretty much didn't give too many adjustments, too many instructions at the halftime, but really liberated them to be like, just do what you know how to do, and that was huge for them. That's what they needed, and that's what allowed them to express themselves already with so much anger. I think it was Carly that said that she felt that she played better with anger, or was it VN that mentioned that? I forgot. But one of them mentioned that she played better with anger, and that's just Andy just said, like, I'm not going to give you instructions, just play with feeling, right? So that was important, and it seems like they really trusted him to handle that situation, and he chose the right coach to bounce off of that. So that's what I got out of that interview.
Yeah, and you know what? It shows in a way. I think the job of Andy Spence was a bit easier because there was so much rage.
I said Andy Cohen. I apologize.
No, it's okay. There was so much rage.
I
and
do like
really
Bravo though. I love a good Real Housewives.
I'm so sorry.
I think that they needed. It's okay. I think they needed a bit of liberty to express the feelings that their feelings on the pitch, and that's what he gave them, which is really, really interesting. But again, and I agree with Eve and Elias, when we usually talked about Beth Priestman, we thought that she had that group so tight that everything was going well, there was harmony in the dressing room, and now we see that it wasn't that way. And everything that we used to say here on the pod, saying we don't understand the choices of Beth Priestman, they felt it too in a way. So I don't know. I find that very, very interesting, and hopefully we'll see what the next manager is going to do. Talking about the next manager, any guesses? Anyone wants to take a guess on the identity of the? You don't have a guess. Do you want to? Is there someone that you want to? Is there someone? Is there someone that you want to see in that position, Eve? If not a guest, or Elias or Andy.
I mean, on their budget.
Reflect on it, honestly.
Geez. It's also the budget too. That's the thing.
Yes. Yeah. We have to do the dream versus the realism. I mean, Andy Pierce did, I think, a very good job in the circumstances. I think if the players have trust in him, I think you need to build your roster, especially Andy Spence, my bad. Not Pierce. Too many names. Poor Andy. He's gonna be like, oh God.
But no, nobody knew him before this.
That's the problem. That's not a problem. But no, I digress. I think given, like, if you look at the sum total of everything that kind of this group of women's national team players have been through in the past few years, not just this latest scandal, but everything kind of say from 2021, 2022 onwards, I think you do need somebody who they have a degree of trust in. And so if he is somebody who they have been able to build a little bit more of a culture of trust and kind of safety with, then I would say stick with him. Don't rock the boat, because this women's team has absolutely been through it in the past few years. And so I don't think they should try anything too revolutionary, anything too out of left field right now, because budget aside, just they've been struggling hard. They've been put through so much.
Yeah. No, I agree. It's too much for that team, but you know what? They answered. Their answer was great. And you know what? Hopefully, we'll see a bit of redemption for that team, and something. Maybe Kevin Blue. I like what he's done so far with Canada Soccer since he came on. So, can he pull something? Again, can he pull something again out of his hat?
Yeah,
I'm not sure. Another philanthropic help.
It's important. It's important
name another health coach. Yeah, go ahead, Andy.
It's also important to note if Andy actually wants to be a coach of this team. Maybe he doesn't want to be. Like, he's disgraced by. Well, we don't know, right? He also went through the whole thing just like the women did, right? So it's important to know that whether he actually wants to be a part of this plan or not, or go through this whole process with them. But at the same time, how many times have we seen coaches that were able to stick with a team going through a rough time, come out of it, and then they did a fantastic job right after,
Yeah.
just because they were given a chance. While also there's been the other situations where they were great as an emergency coach to come out, but then once they were given the full reins, it was a shit show. It didn't work. It was bad.
That's true.
So there it
is kind of a crapshoot.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So
I mean, at the same time, in the last 12 months, you've had the Gold Cup, the Olympics, and the World Cup. So you're going to have a lot of peace and quiet for the foreseeable future.
Relative.
So I really, relative, yeah. So I think they really should just take their time to kind of get all their ducks in a row, have a lot of conversations with Andy Spence for sure. But at the end of the day, you have to make sure that this isn't a Moro Biello with the men's national team type situation where he's just there. And if he's in an interim position fighting for the permanent job, but he's too scared to make any big swings and kind of just does the same thing, which is not what they need. Right. So the status quo is okay. But if you're a top 10 country in the world, you're not satisfied with okay. You need to get to that next level. So I think that they, again, I said it after the Olympics. I said it before the Olympics. They need a proper tactician. They need someone who really can get into the nitty gritty of the game now. And I stand by that. So if Andy Spence is that guy, then give him the chance. But, give him the chance for the next couple windows for sure. But if not, they need to start looking.
For sure. For sure. So let's wait and see what's going to happen with that, the women's national team. We can't wait to see who's going to be named head coach. I think Kevin Blue, pretty sure is working on that right now. And of course, we'll know more in the next few weeks, hopefully. Before wrapping up the show, we're not going to have time to talk about the segment of Canadian players, but at least we want to say just a few words. Quite a few Canadians have moved to Europe in the past in this transfer window, which is really, really encouraging. And we feel that Canada is starting to have a bit of recognition from European championships, which is really interesting. And we've seen so many players like Theo Berg today with Auxerre getting the start, not scoring, and Auxerre winning, by the way, 2-1 against Nice, which is very, very, very hard to do. A great game.
But sad for Moise Bombito.
He wasn't playing, right?
No, I know, but he's still part of the team.
Are you happy, Hady? Are you happy
Why?
that Bombito's team lost? Because Bombito's team lost. We talked about it last week.
Yeah, for sure. Because for sure, I'm not a fan of Nice, so that's for sure. But also we've seen so many other players. Liam Miller is signing with Hull City, giving an assist to Ike Ugbo playing with the Sheffield Wednesday. Luc de Fougerolles, of course, playing with Fulham. So many players, and Derek Cornelius getting his first Marseille start today. Had a very rough start, by the way, but was still able to help the team to a 5-1 win of Marseille. Sixth time today that I say Marseille. So that's great, and we're very happy to see Canadians being at last being recognized by Europe, and that's very, very interesting. And we have a question from Patrick: how has Conan looked? He's injured, so he can't play. So he wasn't in the squad today. So this is it for tonight. Thanks a lot, everyone, for listening to us. So many people have listened and have joined the show today. Thanks a lot for being here with us. Just remember, this content is always going to be free. If you want to help us grow the product, feel free to join our Patreon page and become our Patreons and help us out. We'll be able, of course, to bring you even more things and develop even more things here on this pod. Eve, Andy, Elias, thank you very much for being here with me. And we'll see you next week for episode 192 of The Ball is Round.